Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy, the Insane Game Freak here. Back at it again. I say back at it again, but I don't normally do like traditional movie reviews. But I feel like a lot of you guys, for those who've been on the channel for a while, you know I used to do something called Nostalgia Rushes. And this technically is a sequel to something that would qualify for a Nostalgia Rush. And it's very popular right now, so we got to get the YouTube ad revenue. I won't get a lot of money. Don't worry about it. It's fine. But I figure it can't just be me doing a review of Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. So say hello, Kevin.
Hi, everybody.
Say hello, Tyrone.
Hello, everybody. Tyronethegod3 here.
All right, so we're all 90s babies. I feel like this is fair. To kind of, and this movie came out, I think the first movie came out 1996, 1995, I think. It's around
1996, I believe.
All right, 96. So I was 5 years old, I think. Yeah, 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all were younger. I don't even think we watched it when it came out. I didn't watch it when it came out.
I watched it on VHS from what I remember.
Shh, kids don't know what that is, Kevin.
I can't remember what the hell I watched it on.
Well, I know it was VHS, but I know I didn't watch it in theaters. Yeah, the point is, so they decided to do a sequel, which I guess my first two issues is that one, the sequel's way too late. I feel like if you're going to do this, Space Jam is not an idea that really needed a sequel in the first place. But
well, they wanted the new generation, and like, oh, the adults are here now.
Yeah, but
like
people,
all the kids that watch it are adults now.
Well, it's true, but most people back then even acknowledged that the first one wasn't that great to begin with. So it's like, do you think this can become a franchise? We're just gonna take popular basketball players of the era and just make Looney Tune tie-in. So give it another 20 years, we'll have something else.
Yeah.
So if you've seen our Pokemon movie reviews, we normally start those off with a plot summary, but we can't be bothered. I'm gonna just be real with you. Like I can't even close be bothered with this shit. So
Celebrity has a disagreement with his son. Son goes off in order to son and Celebrity go off to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers wants to have LeBron everywhere. That's fucking stupid. So he says no to it. But then the computer gets mad, sucks the son into a world. The son ends up making a fucking video game out of the whole damn thing where he's appreciated. And his father ends up having to play a basketball game, and he accompanies a bunch of Looney Tunes characters. They play the basketball game. The son ends up winning because the son tells the dad it's something that he can do in order to cheat the game system, and they end up growing as a family. The end.
Oh, and the Looney Tunes were there.
Oh, and the Looney Tunes were there, I guess.
And also Warner Brothers properties. In other words, go buy HBO Max, everybody.
Yeah, HBO Max commercial.
Jesus Christ. Well, I guess that'll cover it. Jesus Christ.
All right, thanks everybody for joining.
So, I think the way to approach it, to be fair, because it's a sequel, you're gonna get compared to the original. Is to look at the original and see what things it does better, while also addressing Space Jam 2's like unique elements to it, which would be a lot of the product placement and some of the choices for the storyline. So the one thing I'll give the second movie off the bat is it has a better message at the end of it than I would say the first one does, because the first one doesn't have a message at all. So Tyrone kind of touched upon it, that like the movie has this running theme of like LeBron as a child being kind of like pushed into a certain direction, that he had to like give up on childish things and just focus on like being an adult if he wanted to get the things he wanted. And he's pushing his son in the same direction, even though his son has other interests. And the whole movie, they try to keep that theming pretty consistent, even up until the end of it, where they're like, look, it's not that I'm not proud of you, it's just I'm taking my PTSD from my younger days and throwing it onto you. And that's not right, which is why at the end of the film, he lets him go to E3 camp, which, can we not come up with better names for things? Fucking E3 camp? Fuck you. I feel like that's a fair thing to say. I don't know if y'all agree or disagree.
My thing with the original, because like, obviously this movie only exists because the original exists.
Yeah.
And we've been in this everlasting cycle right now where we have to regurgitate sort of everything that happens. But like the original, to me in my head, it lives rent free, only because it's an original idea. Like, it's an original, okay, basketball player does Looney Tunes thing. Whereas here, we're just doing it again because people remember it. Literally, if you had no fucking clue about the first Space Jam, then this whole concept seems foreign as shit. But obviously, they're making a nod to the first one. They even make a joke about it in that one. And I honestly don't like that they have to hint, nudge at it. They could have just said it in casual conversation. But for some reason, we've reached an era now where comedy has to explain the joke rather than just let the joke be a natural part of the dialogue. So no matter how many ways you split it, the second one to me always sticks out as, we can't think of any more ideas in Hollywood, so we're doing this thing again.
Kevin?
In terms of like a story and the messaging behind it, I will say I think this movie does a far better job than the original, only because there's actually a incentive this time around for the main character. Given how, if you go back and watch the first film, you'll notice that Michael Jordan was just sort of there to be there. Like, there was nothing that was really tying him to the plot.
It was more for the Looney Tunes than it was more for the Looney Tunes.
It was primarily for Michael Jordan to help the Looney Tunes. And then towards the end of the basketball match, he makes like a deal with him. Like,
he makes a deal, but see, that's his own choice at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas with the second film here, there's a difference. This time, his son got abducted by the Serververse, and now he has to work his way through the whole Serververse to get his son back. So, in terms of like an incentive, there's a bigger and a much better route in the second film than with the first film. Now, mind you, that doesn't necessarily mean it does like a million times better than the first film, but at least in terms of like the core concept, I think the second film does a better job, especially as you guys were just talking about right now with the messaging behind, our character LeBron James and his past and how it ties into the present here. So,
so my struggle comes in is that the first movie's plot was pretty fucking simple. Aliens have come down. They need a new attraction for their alien theme park. The Looney Tunes are pretty fucking funny. We'll use those. And they're like, you gotta at least give us a chance to defend ourselves. And the Looney Tunes are like, well, what's a game we can play that we dominate in? Oh, basketball, because they're fucking midget aliens. And then what do? They go steal the talent of the talent of all the famous NBA players, right? And that's how they become monsters. Well, fuck, we need a famous NBA player. Well, let's get the best of them. Let's get Michael Jordan. And the rest of the movie is, we got to play a game, and if we win, we get our freedom. If we lose, we get enslaved. It's a pretty straightforward plot. And I'm not saying the second movie's premise is still like, I need to save my son. Help me play a fucking basketball game. But for some reason, I don't know if it's just me, the second movie still feels messier. Even though the premise literally is just, LeBron, come save your son. And I think part of it is because they're throwing in all these random subplots with Algae Rhythm not getting the respect he deserves. Dom's whole thing with like his dad not respecting him. Bugs this whole thing about wanting to get the crew back together, which kind of doesn't go anywhere, by the way. They do this thing in the beginning where you like, LeBron's like, I got all these cool ideas for like people to be on the team, and Bugs uses it as an excuse. He'll get all of his Looney Tunes pals back. But doesn't really, that line, it literally just stops. It's like once you get the whole crew, that's it. Now we're just playing the game. And then the basketball game itself, which has its own, I don't know, is it just me that the second film just feels messier plot-wise?
If I can interject here, my thing is, I believe the only reason why the second film is only messier is because we never got a proper build-up towards learning the game itself that they play in the third act. It's a basketball game, sure, and it is the creation of LeBron James' kids' game, but we never get to see enough of it to get an understanding as to how it works, because they pull off so many different tactics that I didn't see prior to this big game. Like, how the hell did they make 1,049 points or something like that in a matter of mere seconds? You know what I mean?
Style points, which aren't calculated by an actual scale.
Yeah, but the thing is, style points is so weird. Like, how the hell does that transition properly into a basketball game? Like, There are so many things in that I was just so confused by, but that's only because we learned very little about the
Yeah.
style points
They
concept.
is essentially, to be fair, the concept of the game is essentially the same as like the game from the first movie. The difference is that instead of just having it be normal basketball, that this movie feels like it has to one up the first movie. So instead of it just being like normal, you shoot, you just make the ball into the goal. We gotta do like 16, 34 different things to kind of make it seem goofier and more extreme. And to me, it's almost to me the game is about the same in terms of entertainment, minus a few things that I think the first film does better. And I just don't. Well, I mean, I agree though too that half of the issue is that the game isn't properly explained. We get like this first little tease of it in the beginning of the game, and then the end tease, and then like the game itself, and that's all we get. And,
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, from what I see from the first Space Jam movie, they followed a very old-fashioned style sports movie trope where they're learning the basics of the game, they get punked on by the rival team, then they do something that feels like it's gonna help them out when they realize, oh, we didn't need that, it was inside us the whole time, and then they work together better as a unit. And then there's a downtime where it looks like they're gonna lose, but something happens, changes the game around, and thus they win. It follows a very old template sports movie like dynamic.
Yeah.
Whereas here we have to like follow so many other things happening. We have to follow LeBron's relationship with his son. Bugs is missing of his friends because that's a plot point. Gathering all the people, so it's a drafting at this point, drafting the players. Then we learn about the new basketball game that the son created, Dom, and then like we briefly go over that. Then we got to tackle the LeBron and Dom are missing plot with what's his name and his LeBron's wife. Then we hop on over to like it's so much. And like by the time you finally get it together, I think the game only takes up 1/4 of the movie.
Yeah. And it just doesn't flow as well because it's like a bunch of small things, some of which don't go anywhere and some of which take until the whole movie to kind of get through, and you're just kind of like to give an example, one of the funny subplots from the first film is that you actually got to see the NBA players after they lost their talent dealing with losing their talent. Now some of the people don't even remember that shit because it's not really integral to the movie, but it's funny. Like I think
it's closing action after the climax.
But it's funny because it's like, oh shit, Charles Barkley can't shoot no more. So I think there's a scene of him getting schooled by a bunch of kids. I think I forget the other dude. There was one that's in therapy. Like you got like these cool string, and then they were all in the hospital. Like you got this.
Oh, and don't forget when they went to talk with that lady with the
fortune teller.
Yeah, fortune teller as well. And they're like, shit, we ain't got to do anything with this.
See,
get out of here.
That's cause and effect. Because the aliens took their skills and their whole life is based around the ability to play ball, that was funny cutaway gags that didn't take up a lot of the time. It would be like sequences that were like maybe 1 or 2 minutes that made sense in the context of the film and were funny, but wasn't like this long running thing. And of course, at the end of the movie, when they take the talent back away from the Monstars, of course the ending of the movie is, all right, well here's your talent back. And it's short sequences, so it doesn't really bog down the movie. Here we gotta have this whole thing with Algae Rhythm talking about how he doesn't get any respect and how he's not appreciated, and I don't know. And here's the thing, Michael Jordan is considered like the savior in the first movie because he's helping the Looney Tunes out, right? So why does the second film feel like it's sucking LeBron James off way more? Fucking algorithm refers to him as King James, and I'm just like, bruh. And then
I think that's his nickname in actuality.
Yeah, that is his nickname.
I know it's his nickname, but it just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It just felt really self-serving.
Michael Jordan's fame was more or less in like the characters knew he was good, but they didn't brag about it.
Whereas LeBron's
they never. Like, they brought him up because they were like, yeah, you're a famous basketball player. But it was always in conversation. Whereas the other ones, they had to put up like this, I had to get the best of the best. LeBron James, King James himself. Like, Okay, we get it. He's a good basketball player. Okay, come on now, guys.
Also, in the first film, if you remember, they didn't start off with Michael Jordan being a basketball player.
Yeah, he was already a baseball
He was
player.
a basketball player. So, one of my favorite scenes when I had to rewatch the film was the point when he got into the Looney Tunes world and they were talking about, hey, we need your help, Michael Jordan, in order to help us in a game of basketball. And Michael Jordan's like, but I play baseball now. And Bugs Bunny replies with, right, sure you do.
Yeah,
and I died laughing because I was like, holy shit, they actually jabbed at Jordan, and I think he has a. Yeah, I thought that scene was actually pretty great. So
Yeah.
I think that's what helps it is that they jab at Jordan. Also gets Jordan allows himself to get made fun of, whereas LeBron is just kept on a pedestal almost the whole time.
Yeah.
And I guess we can get into it. Let's be real here. They're both basketball players. They're not good actors, right? I think we can be fair about that.
No.
Does one performance feel better to you than the other?
Not really.
I'll say this: the only reason why I'm giving it to the second film is only because of technicality, and also because most of LeBron's performances were in 2D, so the emotions can actually just be animated in itself.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much what helped him. Whereas with Michael Jordan, he never really got animated except for like one sequence, and that was really it. Like that only lasted 30 seconds. Whereas
I want to say the first movie worked around Jordan's bad acting, though.
Yeah, I would agree. Y'all give me an example.
Allowed itself to play itself wacky while Jordan was straight.
Yeah, I think the difference is that they view Jordan as the straight man, so he wasn't required to go over emote or anything. The one scene I always think of in the second movie that tells me that LeBron really can't do voice acting is when he first meets Bugs Bunny. They kind of take him. I think Bugs takes him pretty much through the ringer of all of his like most famous like cartoon sequences. And the one that sticks out to me is, I think, is when he cuts the bridge and LeBron falls, right? And he's screaming. But if you watch it, it doesn't sound like he's screaming. Yeah, he's doing that. He's doing like a scream, but it's not like a real scream. He's going, and you're just like, what the fuck is that? It's
and he's like, oh, ow.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you gotta make it sound like it physically hurts you. Now, granted, neither of them are good actors, but I agree with Tyrone that having Jordan be the straight man works out better than having LeBron try to be as animated as the Looney Tunes, because you're gonna lose.
Like KG said, though, visually, LeBron killed it, but that's because we didn't use LeBron's visuals. We used the cartoon LeBron's visuals.
Yeah, so they were able to expand his emotions in a better way.
Yeah.
That's only because he was animated for that.
Something that bugs me about that too. So how come LeBron can memorize Bugs Bunny, but he can't memorize all the other Looney Tune characters? That fucked with me for a while.
Well, because they make it sound like that he used to like enjoy Looney Tunes and shit. But like
he doesn't know the other characters.
But what confused me is that the beginning of the movie implies that like LeBron had to give all that up. So why do you remember Bugs Bunny? Like he comes in. When he comes into the Toon world or the Looney Tunes world, he's geeking out the whole time. And I'm like, but I thought the whole idea is that you had to give all this shit up. So why do you remember all of it? Or like, to me, it didn't work with the theming. That's my issue. But that's also me nitpicking to a degree. I just didn't feel like it fit the theming of like, him having to grow up and him trying to push his son in the same direction. But as soon as you get into the Serververse, you're geeking out over Harry Potter and Superman and Batman and the Matrix and Bugs fucking Bunny. And I'm just like, well,
Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max, which seems a little contradictory to me.
Iron Giant, yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. I wanted to end at least well, and I guess we can move on to the comedy because there is a couple of jokes. Now, I think even Tyrone, you've been open about there are some jokes that work in the second film that you like.
Yeah. And I can't remember them.
I have a couple, but I'm gonna just say this right now. I'm giving it to the first film.
Really?
In my opinion.
Yeah,
yes.
The first film had better jokes.
And also, the only reason why is because the goddamn second film did something I hate so goddamn much.
What?
Notorious P.I.G.
Oh, that. The problem is that
so much.
the problem I have with the new film is that it also tries to use meme humor, and I'm like, don't do that. Like when people's
Yeah, they did like the Fortnite dances and stuff in the game itself.
yeah, and then the big chungus thing. I'm like, listen, I'm cool with memes are funny because they're taken out of context. You were not hip and cool because you took a meme and then just reapplied it to a movie involving that character. Like me seeing him turn chungus was funny. It's out of it. It's funny because it wasn't in.
was never in the universe of that. It was never in the universe of that joke. It just used the picture from the universe of that joke.
Yeah.
What makes it funnier is I remember somebody actually did a review on Space Jam with Big Chungus, and it was like, Bugs turned into Big Chungus, and a kid in the theater literally lost his shit so hard his mother had to take him outside. I forgot the entire film on the drive home.
What the fuck?
Because they think it's funny. Because kids think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Kids still think it's funny, but it's not really. It's only funny out of context. In context, it's like whatever. Actually, if you notice, and I think I mentioned it before, when you first get introduced to Bugs Bunny, they have him do pretty much every famous shtick he's ever done with LeBron.
Yeah, he does like every joke.
And part of that is like, okay, cool, you're trying to respect and pay homage to Bugs Bunny. At the same time, it feels like pandering a little bit. Like, whereas the first movie was like, it's fucking Bugs Bunny. The second movie's like, well, in case you don't know who Bugs Bunny is, it's the barber thing, it's the bridge thing, it's the rabbit season, duck season thing. And I'm just kind of like, he's like fucking Mickey Mouse. He's immortalized. You ain't got to do all this. You ain't got to act like you got to like reference a bunch of shit with him. It's Bugs Bunny. Like, I don't know. It felt
forced.
It felt like
forced.
it felt like you were just trying to throw in a bunch of references like for kids who won't know. It's Bugs Bunny. Who the fuck doesn't know who Bugs Bunny is? Christ almighty, I don't know.
And also, speaking about that too, there was another scene I think that also does a good example on that, where it's like, so let me get this straight. You want me to play a basketball game with a superstar NBA player, and then Bugs Bunny looks onto the screen, and he's like, you know, and what was the line that he said?
That never happened before. I hate that joke. Fuck that joke, man. Don't do that.
Because it's a fourth wall joke.
All you have to know, not even just that. Bugs could have said, so you want me to perform so you want me to do a basketball game with a bunch of us and one celebrity basketball player. And I hate the idea. Like, and just walk off. Don't look at the camera. Don't, hint. You remember that? I hate that. Don't tell us.
You know, and the irony is, you know what the irony of that joke is? That only works on the older audience because a child wouldn't know about the first Space Jam.
Exactly.
So the joke is so the irony is the joke is for you, Tyrone, and you don't like the joke.
I don't like the joke because I don't like when you have to like tell everybody like it's funny. Like no, you don't have to do that. Just walk off. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just my preferred style of comedy.
The biggest issue that the second film has is that it's very hit or miss. It's very hit or miss with certain jokes. Some of them work.
Yeah, and I can't even remember the jokes I liked in it. That's the sad part.
Yeah, I can't. There's a couple that work. But part of me thinks, I think most of them were Looney Tunes related. I don't think any of them really had to do with it.
I remember there was a Rick and Morty joke that was in there somewhere, because Rick and Morty showed up briefly in that fucking movie. But even that joke wasn't like super funny. It was just like
it was the Tasmanian Devil thing.
Yeah, and Rick and Morty are just here.
Yeah, they dropped Taz back off because that's how Taz shows up.
I think the joke was that they were doing experiments on it. Which is very, like, if you watch Rick and Morty, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And when they drop them off, they're like, we're done doing experiments on your rat. And then Morty's just like, I can't unsee the things I saw in his brain. And then they just leave.
So, do we want to even address the sequence of Bugs getting his friends back and which worlds they were in?
Oh, you mean referencing all of
they went back to all the old movies. Yeah.
So Daffy and Porky are in DC
Metropolis.
Yeah, with Superman, and then I think you see the Justice League towards the end of that sequence. Sylvester and Tweety, I think, are in Sylvester and Elmer Fudd are in Austin Powers. Granny and
Kevin Tweety's been eating the whole time.
Yeah.
They straight up say
So-
he's just been inside his stomach this entire time. I'm asking what year is this?
I'm glad you brought that up because it leads into an issue I know, Tyrone, you had, but it more involves Daffy and Bugs.
Oh my god.
The inconsistencies with how the Looney Tunes are normally portrayed. Tweety and Sylvester are pretty much the Tom and Jerry of Warner Brothers, and we
Yep.
all know that Tweety would never get caught for that many years in Sylvester's mouth.
Tweety would never get caught.
Well, that's the point I'm making. This
Yeah.
also leads into the issue with Bugs and Daffy, that their dynamic is completely hoed. It almost irks me, because when I went back and watched the first movie, Daffy's a weirdly good mix of his, like, selfish, narcissistic self, but he's also really goofy in that movie. The second film just put him in this, like, it almost...
He's like a coach.
They put him in, like, the back seat for no reason. I don't really understand
Yeah.
why. Because there's no new character to take his spot.
He's not even a player. I think he's like a manager or a coach.
Yeah,
at
he
this
is.
point.
He is. And I'm like, why did you do that? It doesn't feel like proper representation for the character. I guess that's what irks me about it. And I know that Daffy is pretty much like top 3 for most like Looney Tunes fans.
Yep.
Like
my
if you
favorite.
like Looney Tunes, it's probably either Bugs, Daffy, and then the third one rotates. But usually Bugs and Daffy are your top 2. So
Yeah.
it feels weird to like throw him in this weird like he's not this. Even Bugs is kind of downplayed for some reason, where he's like either, especially with the Lola stuff, which so let's quickly address the Lola thing because I know it's gonna come up. So Lola has been kind of a controversial character in this film, primarily for 2 different reasons. The first reason being her design being changed. And I think the director saying that she was inappropriate in the first film. And
But that was the joke.
I also don't understand how that. Well, to me, I don't understand how she was inappropriate. The only thing that was
The next generation just can't handle it.
Yeah, the only thing inappropriate about her would be potentially her figure. That's it. Her character,
Which isn't inappropriate.
no, it wasn't. You fucking watch Betty Boop and fucking Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but you have a problem with Lola. And the funny thing is, her character is almost exactly the same, except because she's not a new character in this film, she's downplayed still. She's downplayed in the second film. So I don't understand I could understand if you said she was too sexualized. I wouldn't agree with you, but I could understand it.
Yeah, I would say we've dealt with way more sexualized characters in movies.
Yeah, so like I could understand you saying it, but I wouldn't agree with you.
Roger Rabbit tackled that whole issue together where Jessica Rabbit goes, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn this way. She already made the joke
And it was pretty
prior to it.
because people don't understand the joke. People think it's more about like we need proper female representation, but they can't be attractive. That's why we have all the weird changes, like in the Powerpuff Girls reboot, Miss Bellum isn't in it at all. Like
Yeah.
we're like sexy women in cartoons or women who look mildly attractive in cartoons are just like hoed. You just get hoed. And Lola, to me, which wasn't even on the same level as like a Miss Bellum or Jessica Rabbit, is put in the same hole because of her figure, even though her character was literally like a chick who didn't take shit from you, and she couldn't stand being called doll.
And Miss Bellum whole thing was that she was the smartest one there. They have an entire incompetent mayor, but Miss Bellum is the brains behind the operation.
Which just goes into
She's-
Go ahead.
She's the one that was calling the major shots while the mayor was just sort of sitting around eating pickles. Like the dynamic works better here because yes, she's hot, but she's also competent.
And that was the joke.
And that was the joke, exactly.
And it pretty much went the same way in Space Jam. That she was the second best basketball player next to fucking Michael Jordan, but she
Right.
was also attractive. So the pretty girl did better than any other like well-established character.
Right.
And it kept it simple. Now we got to do which is why I don't like the whole retrieving the Looney Tunes thing, because it sounds like all the Looney Tunes were happy in their respective worlds.
Oh, also Lola made the joke better than Bugs made it. So Bugs is like, we need you to team up with us in order to team up with the celebrity basketball superstar. She goes, been there, done that, and then keeps moving. And I'm like, there it is. That's the joke. You told it twice, so it's not as effective now, but you did it.
Yeah, and I just don't like the regrouping because the arc doesn't go anywhere. The idea is that Bugs thinks like they should stick together like a family, but it's never really addressed. Like it just kind of he pretty much rips everyone from their worlds, and they're like a little annoyed with him, and then it kind of just moves on. And I'm like, what? Why even put it in there? Especially because the way that whole situation is set up is that he's like, well, LG Rhythm said we could have better lives in different universes, but then he calls the Looney Tunes rejects, which confuses me. Because why wouldn't you just like lock them away? Like that whole plot there doesn't make sense, and I don't understand why it's there. The Lola thing slightly annoys me just because we don't want to have sexualized bunnies in our show. But the funny thing is, you still do like weird other fetish shit low key in the movie. Someone pointed out, remember the Snake Girl basketball player on the Goon Squad?
Yeah, that was weird.
People mentioned that every time there was like 3 or 4 sequences that she wrapped her tail around Lola specifically, and it was like, are you implying some vor shit? If you don't know what vor is, don't ask me. And if you do know what vor is, go back and watch at least the basketball game
I
portion.
ain't watching that.
Go back and watch the basketball portion. Oh, Jesus. All right. So I think we've left all the human character side, so we might as well just fully transition into the Toon stuff. We kind of already started with the whole Daffy and Bugs dynamic, but KG, I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that, because it was primarily me and Tyrone talking on that one.
Oh no, it's just because I feel like you guys nailed it perfectly with what you guys were talking about. I just personally enjoy Bugs and Daffy more so in the first film because I feel like at that time you could say they weren't like modernized in a way.
Yeah,
they still felt like they are from back in the day, the Looney Tunes, old school. Like Daffy Duck does typical, kind of weird shit.
Yeah, that's why I say
Space Jam first film.
He's a good mix of modern, like he's still narcissistic, but like he's more loony than he would turn it. Because later on, he kind of loses the loony part and just becomes
becomes sane basically in the second film. He doesn't do anything wacky, but that's, as you guys mentioned before, he's a manager now, so he can't exactly provide anything extra in the field because he's not in the field. So unfortunately, that hurts him more in the second film.
I liked in the first one that the Looney Tunes, they were more awestruck at like the real humans, like the people.
Yeah.
They would invest themselves into the people, like how Daffy was like asking Bill Murray for like advice and shit.
Well, he goes, how did you get here in the first place? And Bill Murray's like, I talked to my agent. And it was like,
I thought he said I'm friends with the producer.
Yeah, actually, it was like
that.
And it's like, so that's a good fourth wall joke without looking into the camera and going, well, I think, yeah. Although Daffy does,
I think Daffy looks at the camera after the joke, not.
Well, he goes. I think, but he doesn't even say like. He's like, oh, that's how it goes, and he looks at the camera.
Yeah, they just played it off and went on to the next scene.
You know what also helps? You know what also helps Bugs and Daffy? In the first film, they got that section to themselves. Remember Michael Jordan won his lucky shorts?
Yeah.
So Bugs had to break into his house and get the shorts, and you have that whole gag with the dog attacking them and shit. I think that works because that's like traditional Looney Tunes shit. But like, it's not hampered by like a lot of real characters other than the dog, and I think the kids find them at the end of it. And it's a good like Bugs and Daffy dynamic sequence without ruining like without ruining the movie. It's just funny. It's just a fun sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just like how they were, and they were more involved. The Toons never go to LeBron's world except towards the end, and it's just Bugs Bunny.
And it's kind of unnecessary, actually. It does that whole death fake out thing,
which we'll talk about later, obviously.
But, yeah, because we'll get into the game in a little bit, but like,
yeah. And then I guess you want to talk. Do you want to talk about the villain or?
All right, so
we never really brought up Algae Rhythm.
All right, we're gonna split this in 2 sections. We're gonna talk about Algae Rhythm, and we'll compare him to, I forget the name of the villain in the first film, not the Monstars, but the fucking.
What was his name from the first film?
I just call him Danny DeVito because he's voiced by Danny DeVito.
Oh, he's voiced by Danny DeVito, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Oh, I did not know that, actually.
yeah, he's voiced by Danny DeVito. That's why I threw people
I
off.
think his name is Pound.
Is it Pound?
Hold on, let me see.
Let me look.
I would crack.
Oh no, that's one of the Monstars names.
Oh,
Sorry.
I didn't even know that was one of the Monstars' names.
Oh my god, let me see.
Then again, I don't remember the Goon Squad's names either, so I can't say anything.
Here we go. Danny DeVito as Swackhammer, the proprietor of the Intergalactic theme park
Swackhammer.
Moron Mountain.
Oh, so Pound is the leader of the Monstars team. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Swackhammer. I don't remember them even saying his name in the film. Or maybe they say,
just call him boss.
or maybe they say it like at the beginning when he's first introduced, and then every instance afterwards he just calls him boss. So we'll do that. We'll compare Swackhammer with Algae Rhythm, and then we'll compare the Goon Squad with the Monstars. So how do y'all feel about Don Cheadle as Algae Rhythm?
Like the Algae Rhythm. I don't know. I didn't.
Seems like a bad performance to me.
He's just not a good villain. I don't like him as a villain. This is horrible to me. I think it's because of the era too. So I was Swackhammer. Swackhammer worked well because he's very much like those big wig business guys that run behind the scenes of basketball and monopolize it in order for money. Like, he's very like a big business guy. Like, I don't care exactly about fun or anything, but I like the money that fun makes. He's definitely the type of guy to capitalize off this basketball game. He's definitely the type of guy who would capitalize off making money from an amusement park. Like, those are definitely very like Swackhammer-esque things. Though most of the like amusement parks or basketball games, the things you enjoy are usually ran by some big wig in a suit smoking a giant ass cigar. Like the imagery is there. I don't know what Algae Rhythm is. I mean, I know he's an algorithm. Obviously, he's based off of the things that you normally look up on the internet, and collective informational data that's gathered on what he believes you like. So it makes sense, but I wouldn't necessarily villainize that.
You know,
it's hard to make
well, that's why I think they add the whole respect thing in there. That he doesn't get his proper dues because of how great he is. It's like he's like an egotistical computer program.
Yeah.
And it kind of doesn't work because it's like, who gives a shit? like, I mean, even the whole premise of him even being interested in LeBron's son is because LeBron's son is a tech geek and likes the program itself. But like, he's not really threatening. He kind of flips between being like manic and like unstable. And I don't know, man. And then they do the thing where like the main villain has to become like the main obstacle towards the end of the movie, where Swackhammer sat in the stands the whole fucking time. And he gets his comeuppance by his own team.
Yeah.
Which I like that, because it was like, they were like, why the fuck do you listen to him in the first place? Because he's bigger, and they're like, wait a minute. And we used to be small. You know what? Fuck this. And then they fucking, because he's a dick. He's a dick, and he gets comeuppance. Algae Rhythm is just like, he fucks himself by like getting mean towards LeBron's son, and then it's like, oh, you fucked up now. Why would you get mean against the guy who made the game that you stole to use for this basketball game? Like, it doesn't, he doesn't seem smart. It just, I don't know, man. That is me. It's not interesting. Granted, the first villain isn't interesting, but he's straightforward. I think that really is the key point between 1 and 2. 1 is just straightforward about what it is. 2 wants to act like it's trying to be something different. And I'm like, but it's still basic as fuck. It's kind of like, I'm going to the store, Tyrone. I'm going to Walgreens, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could just fucking look outside your window and go, I walked 2 blocks, I'm at Walgreens. Space Jam 2 is like, well, if you take Google Maps and MapQuest, you can take the highway to go around, and you'll end up at the Walgreens in about 2 to 3 hours. And you're just like, well, why would I do that?
I think the one thing that works with Swackhammer better too is that he is very reminiscent of like what happens in basketball teams, where all these big ass like hulky ass athletes are getting fucking, because that's happened before, where I believe managers and coaches will
Yeah.
be these like small cigar smoking dudes that are just putting these people through hell. Large athletes are getting put through hell and abuse and shit, mental and verbal abuse, by like this little ass dude with a cigar that's running shit. Like, that's a very real thing.
Right.
Where where knowing basketball game on the levels of believability so hard it makes me like just, it puts a bad feeling in my stomach because the technology he's using
sick.
is borderline magic. And it bugs the fuck out of me because it's like, yes, I've seen kids that are smart that can do computer programs, but this shit is insane.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted to go for the whole he's a child prodigy genius, but I can't sit here and believe that Dom would be the type of person to make this game just simply based off of like the little input that he has on how things work. He explains how they work, but he never goes into like the computer logistics of it all or anything. Like, he never breaks down coding. He never does any of that. Now, obviously, it's a kids movie, and they didn't. That shit would be boring, I guess.
Well, it could have been. You could have fixed it by having him be interested in game design and learning like the basics of it, and like LeBron be like, "Well, you're not even that good. Why would you even bother?" And then once he gets inside, he can make the game he always wanted to make. The problem is in the beginning of the movie, he's already made the game he wants to make. Like, I would have had him where he's working on a game, but he doesn't have the technical prowess to do it, and the algorithm believes in him, and then he's able to make this cool ass game, showing like what belief in a child can do. And obviously, like this ridiculous amount of tech you have access to. I think that would have been cool. Like, but it's weird to have a child who's like, I can make an Xbox One game in like 2 weeks. What? and your dad's concerned about basketball. Like, because it also doesn't make sense. Why are you mad when your son made a fucking video game that he is selling to the public? Like, the fuck are we doing? I don't know any parent who's like, well, you should have been playing instead of making games. Dad, I'm rich. Nah, that's not the point. I don't know.
Yeah, KG, did you have anything?
Not really much to contribute on that part, in all honesty. It's just more so, man, I just feel the first film did this sort of concept better. The second film just felt more so like as if they didn't plan it out in time. They rushed certain things that didn't need to be rushed, and they extended certain sequences that I feel were needed to be done within this matter of a minute, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because when we transition to the Goon Squad,
Oh god.
so the good news about the first film is that the first film kept the main basketball villains consistent, meaning you saw them pretty early in the fucking film getting abused by Swackhammer and then coming down the challenge to a basketball game, then going creepy enough to go into the real world. And still, like, it's all the same characters. Whereas the Goon Squad is literally introduced for the sake of doing the game. And I know Tyrone was probably the most angry about the game itself involving them. But you know, and I'm gonna say this phrase and then I'll let Tyrone have it.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency be damned.
Yep, that is the best way to summarize those characters.
Consistency be damned. Tyrone have at it, because that's to me that's the biggest problem.
Okay, so
if anybody is a good analyzer, it's Tyrone with this.
Okay, let's break down the Monstars first, and then I'll go into the Goon Squad. The reason the Monstars worked so well for me in the first one was because they literally just stole the talent of already existing basketball players and just sort of exaggerated them, making them unnecessarily better than what they were. Basically, they combined the talents of the players along with the wackiness of the fact that they're technically toons. And it all comes together pretty well. It means that if they play them in a game, yeah, they're going to be hard to beat because they're good players, but they're also still going to be at a level of reasonability where, oh, wait a minute, these are just big brutes. One weighs a lot, so he's good at defense. The other one's kind of like small, so he's fast. One's literally Larry Bird, so he's just tall. All we have to do is just, you know, be a little bit wackier about it, and we'll be able to beat him. Michael Jordan plays the game straight because he's just good at the game. But he realizes later on that if you do the wacky shit in combination with the skill, you'll be better than like your opponent. So he uses it almost to a point where it literally starts to become like an element that allows him to beat them in the final shot, where he stretches his arm. The game comes in a level of reasonability too, because the score's so damn close that you think, oh shit, this could end either way if like something wrong happens. The Goon Squad is fucking stupid. Like everything about them is dumb. They get these abnormal ass powers, most of which is just combining them with an animal, except for the one guy that turns into hot and cold. And then the guy that can fucking freeze time. And the reason I'm so mad about the freeze time, I think his name is Chrono. Just do that. The whole game, you could just do that. Just freeze time the whole fucking game and you're gonna win. I don't even understand why he turned it off. Is there like an amount of time he can use it or what? Like, honestly, you can just freeze time the whole game.
Tara, I'm gonna say this right now. The whole point of him, I think, literally was to set up for that granny joke, which correlates back to her being in the Matrix. I think that's literally the whole point of him.
I didn't even like the joke when they did it the first time.
But they're doing it because I like that it's like a full arc joke. I just don't think it was worth it. That's my issue with it. But go ahead, sorry.
Also, the Monstars, like, they're very advertised. I like their name, first of all. It's Monstars, but it's spelled out Monstars, like monsters and their star basketball players. It's perfect. What the fuck is the Goon Squad about? Like, they have there's no pun in the name or anything. They're just called the Goon Squad. Why? None of them are goons. They're barely a squad.
What's
like,
a goon to a goblin?
I'm just like, one of them, like you already said, was like this snake that did this weird like wraparound on Lola every time.
So to go over them, I think it's one's a snake woman, one's a spider woman. One guy can turn from water to fire.
The cold guy, and then there was Kronos, and then Dom.
Was that it?
Oh, there was a guy that could fly. He could fucking fly.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. It was a guy who could fly.
If you can fly, why the fuck are you losing?
Well, look, because like I said, consistency be damned. Because what you're probably about to get into is the fact that in the portion of the movie where they're supposed to win, they're taking full advantage of their abilities. When the portions they are not supposed to win, they just don't use their fucking abilities.
They suck.
But my problem is that you make characters who have these abilities, so instead of making Looney Tune gags around the tunes fucking up their abilities, the only one they do that with is the guy who turns into water, which gets absorbed by the thing, I forget his actual name, the red thing in Looney Tunes, sucks him up because he has all the fur on him. The rest of them just don't use their abilities.
Oh, you mean Gossamer?
Yeah, Bossamer. Jesus Christ, I always forget his name. But yeah, that's the one who gets like a legit joke out of it. Everyone else is just like, well, fuck, I forgot to use my webs. Damn, I forgot I could fly. Like, it doesn't work.
Kronos forgot to freeze fucking time.
They shouldn't have introduced the motherfuckers who can freeze time.
Don't even introduce a character that can freeze time if you're not gonna use him.
And he's a late addition too, if you notice that. He doesn't show up in the first round. He shows up in like the second round.
Right. And he can
go ahead.
He can freeze fucking time. He can freeze time. The game should have just been over. And also because they earn style points, there's this moment where I believe the Spider Woman keeps like throwing the ball in a bunch of times.
Isn't it when he's bouncing off of LeBron's head or something?
Yeah, and it's like bouncing off of LeBron's head, and so she's like, eat that, eat that, eat that, eat that. She's doing that and getting all these points. The points get so absurd that I just lose sight of it. Like, I lose interest in the game because it's like 1,000 to 30 or some shit. Like, it's like an insane level of like a gap. Whereas in the original, there was just close enough of a gap to where, oh, they could probably catch up. Oh, no, they got their asses whooped. Oh, they can catch up here. Oh, they are catching up. Oh, they could probably get it. If they mess up and now it's boom, they get the point. Here it's like 1,000 to 1,000 or something. I'm like, I've left.
Actually, it was 1,000 to 39.
Exactly. Yeah, at that point, I'm like, I'm leaving. This is stupid.
Yeah, you
Like,
already knew. Okay, they're gonna come back in the second.
yeah,
one.
like the points are so silly at this point. Like, the first one very much revolved around a realistic basketball score. Like, you can look up at the screen and go, that's a real basketball score. That can happen. The other one's like, what? All these numbers? No.
Yeah, because I think it ends with like 72 to 73 in the first one.
Yeah, that's a realistic basketball game. That's a long basketball game. It's a realistic one.
Yeah, the main issue with the Goon Squad is because they don't have any personality. Now, they do try to do the thing like they did in the first film where they base it off of players. So, of course, the first film, you still the town of NBA players, so it kind of comes with it. The second film, then there's like a sequence where Dom is like talking to players. Just players. I don't even know their names.
I think they're friends with LeBron vaguely.
Yeah, they're like players, and supposedly the Goon Squad is based off of those people. But like it's in such a vague way. And hell, you see the other players from the first film way more through those like cutaway gags with them trying to deal with like, not having their talent. It's not even a cause and effect here. It's like, well, LeBron has these 6 friends. We're gonna turn them into like ridiculous versions of themselves. And I'm like, that's pretty lazy. Especially when it's just introduced to make a team and that's it. The team has no character. Hell, I don't even think you see them after they win the game. They just disappear.
Yeah, they're just gone.
And I'm just like, well, that's a lack of charm in my opinion. Whereas you could at least appreciate the aliens, the Monstars from the first film. Even at the end of the film, when they get all tiny and shit after they get back the talent, they're like, can we stay here? And they're like, I don't know if you're loony enough. And they do the whole like Looney Tunes gag at the end of the film right before like you cut away and you don't see him anymore. Which is also weird because they make a cameo in this film, which we got to talk about the product placement, don't we?
We'll do it.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. I don't think the product placement is as bad as people are making it out to be in the second film. Because my big thing that I noticed is that yes, they are in the background, but that's it. They are just simply in the background. They're not like having camera shots where they specifically point the camera towards those properties. It's more so, oh, if you see those characters there and you know who they are, good for you. That's as much as that kind of cameo.
So it's a Where's Waldo. It's a Where's
Yeah,
So-
pretty much. It's Where's Waldo with all the Warner Brothers
I have
properties.
2 things.
Yeah.
The first thing is I've heard people complain that the first film was just as bad, which you're a fucking liar. It's not even close. The second thing to counter that is, I wouldn't say that it's just in the back. Now the final sequence is the most egregious, but it ain't the only sequence. The first film remember the Serververse takes place at Warner Brothers Studios. So like you mentioning Harry Potter, fucking Superman, Batman, Matrix, Austin fucking Powers, like that shit in the beginning serves no purpose other than cameo shit. And we see him fly through the areas, then we visit the areas to get the tunes. Oh look, there's Wonder Woman. Like, I would say like a good chunk of this film just has product placement in it. And my thing is this: if you like the Where's Waldo effect, like, oh, you know where this is, and oh, you know where that is, that's cool. But I would say this film borderlines on it becoming distracting as fuck. I know people who literally watch the film more to point out the references than to watch the actual basketball game, which is why you don't put that shit next to the basketball game, because people are more excited about the random mask reference in the corner than the Gremlins. Goddamn! Oh look, there's a guy controlling time on the screen. Fuck all that. You see it in the background. Do you see?
Pennywise, yeah.
Yeah, you see Pennywise and shit. I'm just like, it's distracting. That's my problem with it.
It looks like an awkward anime convention.
Yeah.
That's my issue with it. It's so much at the end that it's distracting. If it was like sprinkled evenly throughout the film, it would be fine. But the fact that it's like, what's that? Ready Player One. It's like that, except it makes less sense.
Also, I kind of wish, I don't like that they had 2 live commentators. I wish they had one live commentator and one cartoon one or something. I think that would have worked better. Because then they could bounce off of them.
Didn't the first one have commentators?
Yes, it had the two little mouses.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but those were cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
they
it
were
fit
still
better.
only in the cartoon universe at that time.
Also, I want to point out that all the members in the audience were animated, by the way, for the 90s. Not
Yeah,
bad.
everybody. Although the 4K version of the Space
Didn't
Jam
they
really
re-
shows
didn't
you
they
a
re-
lot of really
Yeah.
horrible shit.
They
Well,
do,
yeah,
they do
because
re-
they
they-
didn't
they
plan on it being like.
digitally
No.
upscale.
I the reason I say that is because like, what was that turtle's name again? Just shit. What was
the
that
one,
turtle's name? Cecil.
yeah, Cecil.
Cecil, yeah. In the Space Jam 4K, people were able to notice in the background that Cecil had his face replaced with like a traditional cartoon girl. So you saw Cecil's body, but with the girl's head. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? And those were the characters in the background. Yeah, it's like you had to see it to believe it, kind of thing. But
Well,
you can only see it during the 4K.
I can understand that, right? I can understand that happens, but but see, it didn't distract from the game. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
there were obvious cameos in the background, and obviously, maybe it doesn't look as good as this film does, but like, it didn't distract me from the game.
Of course.
Like, and that's the issue that I think the second film has. It distracts the fuck out of it. Like, at a certain point, I'm just looking for characters because the game isn't that interesting, and it follows the same structure as the first film's game.
I gotta let you know that Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Gang are there.
It's their new incarnation.
Specifically the Scoob universe.
Yeah, is there, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, has anyone even seen that film?
No. But I did hear that Shaggy defied physics and logic by coming back from hell, so.
Yeah, I heard the best thing about the movie I heard is the ending of it. I haven't heard anything
Yeah.
else about the film.
See, this is how interesting Looney Tunes is.
I'm just saying.
We're talking about Scooby-Doo.
So I'm trying to think, what's the last thing to really cover? Because we've already covered the. What was the thing?
Oh, and didn't Algae Rhythm, didn't he have like a thing where when the game got towards the end, he powered himself up and was able to literally.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like the fact that
reverse time, and I'm
cheat.
like, you could have done that the whole.
Well,
fucking
then he also says that like LeBron cheated or some shit at the end. Because
Well, that was supposed to be like a situation where, like, you know how it's those sore loser situations where if you're losing a game, then rather than accept it, it's like you cheated.
Well, actually, let's get into it. The final shot for both films. The way it's handled. Because...
Oh, wait. No, before we do that, we got to talk about the cameo celebrity appearance.
Oh, I actually think that's probably one of the better jokes in the film. The second film.
The Michael B. Jordan instead of Michael A. Jordan.
Yeah, I thought that was actually one of the best usage.
That's one of the best jokes.
I like it and hate it. I like the joke and hate the joke at the same time.
Why do you hate
And
it?
the reason I like it and hate it is because I watched the first one. And the first one, when Bill Murray shows up, he's very, like, nonchalant about everything because he's fucking Bill Murray. But he's competent, weirdly. He's like, all right, I guess I'll go play this game. But he's really good with it because he's playing straight. So he ends up he becomes an unexpected wild card for the Monstars. Whereas here, Michael B. Jordan shows up and he's like, I was just in the audience and this cat pulled me up and y'all can do it. Okay, I'm gone. Like, okay, well, that happened, I guess.
Like, it's still funny. You just think Bill Murray's funnier.
Oh, Bill Murray did his job way better.
Well, also, Bill Murray's
actually useful in the game.
Well, yeah, Bill Murray was actually included. Even his Michael's assistant, I always call him Newman because of Seinfeld. What's his actual name? The fat dude.
Shit.
Man, I can't remember
I always
his
think
name.
I always call him Newman, but that's not his name. That's his name in Seinfeld.
Oh man, what was
He's
his
used.
name?
Remember, he's the one who finds out that they stole the time from the NBA players.
Yeah, that's why he made the deal, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, because he found out. So like that shit led
Wayne
into.
Knight is his name.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Knight, I thought he was funny. Granted, he's in the film a lot, and the premise is more so that he's like the annoying sidekick to Michael Jordan, but he works well in that role. And once again, he also gets to play. He does make a shot. He gets crushed, but he does make a shot. So
Didn't they make a fart joke out of that though?
they did make a fart joke out of
Yeah,
it.
they inflate them.
But you know why I didn't mind it? Because it led into the fact of like, how did you do that? And I think that's when Bug's like, you can do anything here, Doc. And then he stretches out Daffy's neck and he's like, this is Looney Tune land. Which leads into the end of the film where he does that arm stretch of a shot. That's part of the reason why I don't mind it. And the fact that you had to use a human character to prove the point. I like that. I like that kind of shit. It could have been handled better, but I like the way it was handled. Here, it's literally, Dom, grab a fucking power-up off the floor and throw it at your dad's foot. What? But because it's a game that no step on it. That's lazy. That's lazy. That's just lazy writing. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just.
I only just assume it worked because of the fact that everything was all glitched the hell up.
Oh,
And
that's
that was how
that.
he was able to do it.
Oh, that's fair. Well, actually, you probably need to address that.
Oh yeah, the death
The
of
non-sacrifice sacrifice.
beauty.
Yeah, the
Why-
non-sacrifice sacrifice.
Why is that in the movie?
I will say
Because
for
it
some
needed to make
reason-
stakes.
Go
Repeat that
ahead.
again, Tyron? I didn't hear you.
They needed stakes.
Oh.
Go ahead, KG.
No, I was gonna say, despite seeing how hilarious it is, for some reason I felt sad about it. I think it's just because it is Bugs Bunny and he canonically died in the film while also coming back at some point later down the road. I don't know what it is about it, but it did get me. I think it might have been the musical piece.
You want
as
to
well
know
that
what
they
would
played.
you want to know what made it work?
What?
At the beginning of the film, they do the whole like Bugs like obsession with like getting his Looney Tunes
His friends
family.
back.
Yeah. So it would have been funny that by the end of the film they truly started appreciating each other, and then he sacrifices himself, saying that's what family does. The problem is the arc isn't handled right, so it doesn't hit the way it's supposed to.
Really love that "that's all, folks" joke too.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't even think,
where's the-
I don't even think they said it a lot in the first movie, but here they're just like, "That's all, folks. That's all, folks." Fucking Notorious P.I.G. That's all, folks. I'm like, oh, we get it. It's almost like telling the kids, this is the thing that the Looney Tunes say is "that's all, folks." No, Porky says that. That's it.
And he always he always stutters before he says it.
Yeah, but everybody kept saying that "that's all, folks." I'm like, come on now, y'all gotta stop.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as the Bug sacrifice, I think what would have made it hit better is if they had continued the whole family subplot they were trying to do with Bugs. The problem is that it's dropped, and then it's somewhat brought up at the end with the whole Bug self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I guess the only other thing we can really address is the animation. Because I know some people felt some type of way about their realistic CGI looks.
Hell, even Bugs was pissed the hell off when he got all CG.
Ugh, I hated
It's
that.
like, you don't realize this means war.
Well, the only thing that was weird about it is that they were like way more like, it felt like they were violated. That's what kind of made me laugh about the whole thing. Like you took my ink and my cells and you replaced it with fur. How dare you? I don't. They animate. Listen, once you watch live action Lion King, everything is an upgrade. All right, I want y'all to understand this. I think they look fine. I do think Lola ends up looking like nightmare fuel in certain shots. Like they didn't know how to animate her properly. That's a personal opinion though. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about their like CGI furry looks or feathery looks?
They're not. I don't like them, but they're not terrible either. Like they could have definitely been worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
I did like what was it? Daffy's joke about like saying I look expensive and everything like that.
Oh yeah, that was one of the better.
Yeah, Daffy's joke was. See, that's why I love Daffy, but unfortunately, the movie doesn't use him enough.
Yeah, but I think we've kind of covered everything, right?
Oh, one last thing though. One thing that the first film will always surpass the second film. The OST.
Yes, sir.
I'll let y'all talk about that one mostly.
Okay, as someone who grew up with music, especially with the Space Jam music a lot, because Space Jam OST as weird as this might sound, was my first time like really enjoying a movie soundtrack as much as I did. Because I mean, it had a lot of hits in there. If you think about it, we had what?
I believe I
I
can fly.
believe I could fly.
Hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em low. Like that one.
Yeah, of course, Space Jam, the song itself. I mean, goddamn.
They didn't even make a remix version of it. That's
I'm
what
surprised they
pissed me
didn't do a
off.
remix. I would have expected a remix.
I thought they did one of the songs in
They did in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, that's even weirder. So why is it not in the movie?
They never did it in the movie.
Yeah.
Fly
also,
Like an Eagle.
Don't forget. Yeah, of course, that one. My other song that I wanted to talk about, that's not actually, I think it is actually in the movie, but only in the credits, was the Bugs Bunny rap, Buggin'.
I haven't
That
heard.
was in the
I need
first
to. I need to
film.
listen to that one again.
Oh my god, it was so stupid, but I loved it.
It's also weird
'Cause
how
it was a diss track, and it was written by Jay-Z, if I remember correctly.
What? I need to.
Yep.
I gotta look that up later.
Celebrities were a lot more involved in animated shit back then.
Yeah. It just had the first one just has a more iconic soundtrack. Regardless of how you feel about some of the people who sing those songs, like and then when I'm looking at just the people on the damn album. You got Coolio, Seal, Quad City DJs, Busta Rhymes, Method Man, Salt and Pepper, Monica, Biz Markie, Jay-Z, R. Kelly, Barry White, Chris Rock, Jesus Christ. Like,
Busta Rhymes.
yeah, it's fucking stupid. And then let me go look up.
Yeah, I got the OST for the second one.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
It's a lot of modern ones. Lil Baby, Kirk Franklin, 24K Golden, Lil Wayne, Chance the Rapper, John Legend, Simba, Saweetie, Salt and Pepper, Cash Doll, Lil Uzi Vert, St. John, SCA, John Legend, Jonas Brothers, Lil Tecca, Anime, White, Dame Dollar,
it's I
G-Eazy,
know who it
Kilo,
is.
White Dave, Brockhampton, Corday, Duckworth. What are these names?
Corday
Big Freedia,
Corday is pretty good. I will say that.
Big Freedia, Joyner Lucas. I heard that one. Leon Bridges and Anthony Ramos. So those are the ones that were from the second.
I just think
soundtrack.
the first. I mean, granted, everyone's gonna have their taste, but like, some of these songs from like the first album are just good songs. Motherfuckers just know the songs.
Yeah, you can know the songs for what they are from, and also appreciate them for what they just are in general.
Exactly.
You don't need the Space Jam mindset to enjoy those songs. They're just that good on their own right, because the thing is, those songs weren't built with the Space Jam theming in mind. It's more so just, I guess, songs that were written and they're like, okay, we'll just put it in the film.
The problem is like modern celebrity guests on that kind of on like movies, especially kids movies, is that you can tell it's like a censored version of themselves.
Yeah.
Like fuck, there was a song that came out for that the new SpongeBob movie recently with I gotta look it up.
Well, actually, they even got a Spanish singer for the Sponge Out of Water one. They got J Balvin out of it.
What? Why?
Because he made a song for it. I forgot what it was called. I think it was called Awa or something like that, if I recall correctly.
Of course it was.
But it's literally using it basically takes the song that you're familiar with from the SpongeBob series and uses that as a way for the singers to
I found it.
rap into.
It's Sway Lee, Tyga, and Little Mosey. It's called the Krabby Step. From the
Yes, there you go. And they used the Krusty Krab theme song in the background.
which is here's my problem with it. It's a fucking trap remix of SpongeBob. Which, if you've been on the internet long enough, you've already heard trap remixes. That shit doesn't work because I'm like, y'all are obviously censoring yourselves, and you can hear it in the song versus like a song called like Goofy Goober or Ocean Man. Those just work better. We don't want to get too distracted. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's really all I have to say though. It's just I can see a child watching this film and being entertained, but I don't like the fact that people are like, you can't criticize this movie because it's a children's film, and I'm like, how fucking dare you? It just because it's a children's film doesn't mean it's fucking immune to criticism.
Yeah.
And so if I say
That just means it's a good or a bad children's film.
yeah, like I understand there's a certain lens you watch children's films under, which is why I can say if you're a child, although a kid won't even get most of those fucking references anyway.
Right.
At the end of the movie, they're referencing things like Gremlins. When the fuck has there been a Gremlins movie in the last decade? Hell,
Yeah, so like, who's this film catering for?
because
I don't know.
It's yeah, because like even the Matrix, most kids don't know what the Matrix is. I would say if you're like in your teens or older, you might. But like
This movie's dated as fuck and outside of the date that it came from.
yeah, like for it to be a children's film, and I guess the idea is that well, if we have some adult jokes in there, it'll be more immortalized. And I'm like, kinda, but your movie's too fucking convoluted for its own good. With also weird ass references that only make sense to people who were born in the 90s. And then for some reason people are like, if you were born in the 90s, you shouldn't be criticizing a children's film. The fuck, some of these jokes are literally for my generation. If you were born in the 90s, you would get these jokes. You're not going to get the joke if you're a child.
I said this before at the beginning of the review, but the original one used a concept that was so abstract that it can be immortalized no matter what, and that's why they decided to make a remake of it or a sequel to it, was because it was so memorable. But the reason it was so memorable, whether you liked the Space Jam or hated it, it was just literally Michael Jordan teams up with a team of Looney Tunes players. Like the idea in itself is crazy on its face, but the reason it worked so well was because it was just an original concept.
Right. So I guess to end it out, give a score. I'm gonna let KG go first.
I'm gonna say this now, and I think I said it earlier as well. This film, I enjoy the first one more so than the second. This isn't. I think the second film still has a lot of good things in it, like the story, at least core wise, still feels fleshed out in a way. But overall, in terms of an enjoyable experience, I had a better time with the first one. So this film, I'd give at least a solid 7.
Tyrone. He's speechless.
Yeah, he's surprised I gave it a 7.
How dare you?
Oh, hold on, we're back though.
Well, I'll give my score while Tyrone's AFK for a second. I had to be open with myself as a '90s kid and recognize that the first film isn't great. It has its problems, but like the first film, I kind of leans into Tyrone's point. Felt like an original idea. It felt like it was doing something more for the interest of the idea, more so than a cash grab. Granted, it's still a cash grab because it features the fucking Looney Tunes and the biggest basketball player at the time, right? But as an overall experience, I just find the first movie very simple and fun. And it, although it doesn't have the good message at the end that I think the second film has, I think it's just a vastly more entertaining and consistent film. So I would say if I gave the first movie a 7, I'd probably give this one like a 4 or 5. I'm hanging. It's not offensive, so I'd say a 5. So Tyrone, are you back?
Yeah.
All right, give your score.
I'll give the first one a 7. I'll give the second one. Yeah, I'll probably give it a 5. There were some good jokes in there. I just can't remember them, but there were some good ones that made me laugh. I love that Sarah Silverman's in it, even though they didn't use her comedy to an advantage at all.
I thought you were mad about that because they didn't use her well.
They didn't use her well, but I like seeing her, so.
So is that
I love Sarah Silverman.
Is that a pro or a con towards the movie? Is the question.
It sort of neutrals itself out, unfortunately. It's like a nice add-on. It's like sprinkles. Sprinkles don't have like a taste for real to them, but they're fun to see on there.
Yeah.
Actually, that kind of describes this whole movie. They don't add to the flavor, but it's nice to see them on there.
Yeah. So I guess in closing, it's a film. It's a film that if you showed it to your children, it's not an abomination. It doesn't teach a terrible message. At the same time, if they told you to watch it in 10 years, would you do it? No.
No.
I think this is very much a one.
I do want to bring up, like, okay, did we really like? Well, I know we talked about Bugs Bunny's death and how he just sort of came back.
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't even do that.
No, it doesn't. It skips
Literally,
it.
the movie's like, okay, the movie's over, go away now. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't even want to do it.
Yeah. So, and that gets into the main issue, which is that like the movie doesn't do anything that I would deem as like dog shit, but it does stupid decisions in like parts of it where I kind of just sit there and look at it and go, "You're so fucking lucky I have low expectations." Like that's how I feel towards Space Jam 2. You're lucky as hell. I have low expectations, and all the stupid shit you did, in the grand scheme of things, is relatively inoffensive. That's why I said I couldn't give you lower than a 5 because like, you could still get entertainment out of it. It's still kind of funny. If you're someone who likes to look up references and Easter eggs, it's a kind of a cool film for that. Although what most people are going to do is they're going to wait until someone puts up a YouTube video doing that, and then they'll just do it through that. So like, it's a movie that exists. It doesn't really hurt anything. It just kind of doesn't need to exist. I think that's my biggest issue with you. And there was no reason for this film to exist. It doesn't add enough to justify its existence. The first film, you could be like, that was a hell of an experience. The second film, that was a hell of a cash grab. But like I said, don't get it twisted. The first film's a cash grab too. The second film is just way less apologetic about it. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps it. I don't really.
KG, did you give a score already?
He did, but I think you AFK'd.
I had to. Yeah, all right.
I had him go first, and then we said you, and then I was doing my review since you were AFK. So if you want to check out Mr. God or Mr. Prestige or Mundal, I gotta get out of the habit of saying Prestige, but it just happens.
I think Prestige is still his name, but like universally we know him as KG Prestige. Even the fans do. We just understand that he has to have Mundal as his YouTube channel name.
Yeah, but if you look him up, I don't think you're gonna find his name under Prestige anymore.
Yeah, on his videos on Mundal, he still says Prestige though.
I know he does. So if you want to find KG Prestige or Tyronethegod3, the channel links will be in the description. Do you want me to put just your YouTube, or you want me to put Twitch?
Yeah, you can put Twitch because I'm more active on there.
Tyrone gave up being a YouTuber in 2020. All right, everybody.
I didn't give up being one. I just slowed down.
When that Dragon Ball Super movie comes out, he'll be the first one on there talking about how shit it is. Just remember that, kids. Granted, I'll have the front row seat, so it's fine. Because there's nothing funner than a good old fashioned roast. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for support. There are other nostalgia-ish things we can do videos on. If you guys like this, technically we did watch the Rugrats reboot and didn't actually do a video on it. So instead of doing nostalgia rushes in the general sense, we might just, since they're rebooting everything from our fucking generation's childhood anyway, we could just, if we casually watch it, we'll review it and put it on the YouTube. So let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. Thank you guys for watching. Let's the gameplay to win. And TSS isn't. So I'm so used to the stream exit. It's not the same thing. But remember to wash your fucking hands and stay safe because people are still out here dying. Everybody. And I guess welcome to the jam. Yeah. Say bye, Tyrone.
That's all, folks.
Kevin, did you go away or are you still here? All right, Kevin's dead. Good night, everybody.
Jesus Christ.